Hey there, this is Brian Brazentool. I'm the host of the Fit Growth Machine podcast. And today we have a great one as we are going to talk about e-commerce growth strategies through retention marketing. But before introducing today's guest, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. At BSR Digital, we help e-commerce brands that want to scale their business to the next level through Facebook, Instagram, and Google Ads. BSR Digital knows that most e-commerce brands want to grow their sales, but they lack a solid plan and professional team to help them succeed. That's why BSR Digital offers strategic plans, implementations, optimizations, and account audits to help more than 1,000 e-commerce brands like yours grow their business and surpass their competitors. To learn more, you can visit us at bsrdigital.com, and you can also email us at hello@bsrdigital.com. Okay, so what I promised today, we have Daniel Budai. He's the founder and CEO at Budai Media. Hey, Daniel, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for
That's
the
great.
invite.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you, man. So, yeah, I would love to know more about your story.
Yeah, sure. So where to start? Should I start, when did I start my digital marketing journey, or where should I start?
Wherever you want.
Yeah, sure. So probably not many people know about me that actually I studied geology and earth sciences at university. I finished in 2016, and I wanted to work in the oil industry back then, but the oil prices were down. The prices were pretty low, the opposite than now. And it was really hard to find a job. So I looked after different jobs, and my first job was not digital marketing. Actually, I worked in a call center and I hated every moment of it. I'm really not a customer support type of guy. But in the meantime, I registered to Upwork and I started out with copywriting. I wrote marketing emails, and that's how I got started around 2016, 2017. I quit my job after 7 months of doing Upwork. And after a while, I just started, getting bigger and bigger gigs, and I actually hired copywriters. I niched down to e-commerce, email marketing around 2018, and fast forward, now we are 26 people e-commerce agency.
Wow, that's great. So I didn't know you were a geologist. So that's pretty interesting. And I think that many of us, like agency owners, have like probably, as Jason Swank says, like we are accidental agency owners, and we have some crazy backgrounds. So there are some doctors in the mastermind we belong to. I particularly come from the background of computer science. So it's like everyone comes from different backgrounds. And the good thing is that one way or another, you end up applying things you learned in university, let's say, even if it's not directly related to your field, right?
Yeah.
What about with geology?
Just today, I listened to a podcast, agency podcast, and the guy said he used to be a geologist, and I was like, oh wow, that's the first time I found a fellow geologist marketer. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
That's great. So today we are going to talk about, as I said earlier, retention marketing. So for those listening to this that don't know exactly what we mean by that, could you please explain?
Sure. So we focus on e-commerce retention marketing, and basically this is the fancy name of focusing on retaining customers of an e-commerce brand. We don't do traffic acquisition, we don't do ads, we don't do SEO. We focus on retaining the already existing customers and really just generating as much value per customer as possible. We measure the lifetime value, the churn rate of these people, and we use different channels to achieve that. So we use email marketing, we use loyalty programs, we use SMS marketing quite a lot recently. And, we are quite agnostic when it comes to channels. So we even tried postcards, physical mails. End of the day, we want to increase the lifetime value of the customers.
Okay, that's great. So let's say we can break it down into acquisition and retention. And many people listening might be wondering, like, okay, so I want new, like everyone is saying, I want new customers, right? Why would you say that retention plays a big role here?
Sure, because very simple analogy, let's say, that if if you only acquire customers, after a while you will run out of people. So there is no niche, no industry where there are unlimited number of people. And actually, a few years ago, when I started working with dropshippers at the beginning of my career, I actually experienced this, that they run out of customers, they burn the whole niche, the whole audience, let's say on Facebook, and after 1 year they had to just shut down the business. So it's an actual thing, it can happen. And I think another guy, he's the CEO of Decathlon in France, I think it's a French company. He said that only acquire a customer if you can retain them, if they will become a returning customer later, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. And I think that's a very high level phrase or thought, but I really like this. So, acquire customers only if you want to and if you can retain them. That's a good mindset. And especially nowadays when, third-party data, it's a tricky field, and own data, zero-party, first-party data is just, it becomes more and more important. I think that's when retaining customers, it's even more important than ever.
Yeah, in fact, now you mentioned that about, I mean, third-party data, first-party data, zero-party data. We've been discussing this in the latest episodes, so it's a huge thing right now in terms of, I don't know, after the privacy issues, policies, now with the cookie-less thing coming next year or so, it's going to become even more important, as you say. You should own your data, and once you own, let's say, or once you have a customer, why not make them come back for more if your business, let's say, or your industry applies for that. So let's jump into some of the specific um, use cases for this. So let's say email marketing. How can email marketing support retention?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think email is not dead. Some people, they claim that it's dead, but it's not at all, because still 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50% of the revenue of an e-commerce brand comes from email marketing. And I think that's still the most important channel when it comes to retaining customers. And why it's important? So it's a really cheap way to retarget subscribers and customers. So let's say you have a 3-4% conversion rate on your website. It still means that more than 95% of people, they leave without buying anything on the website. And email is an option to get contacted with them and send them messages and get them to come back later. But if you let them leave, it's very unlikely that they will come back. Of course, you can retarget them with ads, but it costs you money. And email is usually a really cheap way to retarget them and see them back again. And I think that's one important thing. Or if they are customers already, it's much easier to convert them again and again and move them up on the ladder to buy more and more. And now we even measure these things, so we can see how much a subscriber or VIP customer is worth compared to a non-subscriber or a visitor or just a one-time buyer. And there are big differences there. So email is really crucial. And also, just one note here. So your inbox is personal. So it's a really personal area, unlike Instagram or Facebook feed. If you open an email, you are there. at least for a few seconds, and every marketer has the chance to grab their attention. So I think
Yeah,
that's amazing.
it's very intrusive compared to an ad. Of course, that's great. One question I have is, if we go more in depth for a sec, what are some of the, let's say, what can anyone listening implement after this conversation if they are interested in doing email marketing? Of course, we always recommend they hire a professional, right, to do it. But are we talking about email, like manual email campaigns? Are we talking about automated flows? What automated flows do you recommend, or you have
Mhm.
seen that work the
Mhm.
best?
Sure. So actually, one thing, flows versus newsletters or campaigns. Start with flows because they are automated. So if you want, you can set them up only once and you can leave them and they will work. They will retarget your incoming traffic basically. But also usually flows, they have a higher revenue per recipient than campaigns because they are behavior triggered. So that's why they are really precise in targeting. I abandon my cart, I get the email 10 minutes later. So that's an amazing trigger, and it's all automated. While with an email campaign, you have to segment them, figure out segmentation. It takes more time, and even the efficiency is not as good. So start with flows. And what flows to start with? So abandon cart email. I hope I don't need to introduce this one. I think that's the most popular one. And then new customer flow. So make sure you send an email flow to your new customers. They voted for you with their money. So I think it's not nice if you don't send them anything. Try to nurture them, try to get an upsell in that flow. Maybe if it's a more complex product, you can send them manuals, how to use the product, maybe an FAQ as well. And then also make sure you set up a pop-up on the website so you can target those people who want to leave. For example, an exit intent pop-up. You can get their emails, and later you can send them emails. We usually set up a welcome flow. It's usually 2-3 emails where we introduce the brand. We try to convert them to buy for the first time. And I would say these 3 flows, everyone can start with these: abandon cart flow, new customer flow, and the welcome flow with the pop-up.
That's great. And besides email, I don't know, SMS. Do you recommend that? Is it a complement to email? Does it work depending
Mm.
on the industry, or how does it work?
Sure. So I think there is this black and white thinking that SMS or email. I don't like this mindset. You need both because both are amazing and they are complementary. So, and also probably the other bad mindset I can see on the market is that SMS is too spammy. We don't want to do it because it's too intrusive. And yes, if you do it in a bad way, yes, it's too intrusive and it's spammy. So you should do it in the good way. So yeah, SMS, especially in the US, I think it has its renaissance nowadays. I think it has the highest ROI from all marketing channels nowadays. I could see accounts spending $500 on SMS and they made 30-40K in revenue, which is, I think that's amazing. So yeah, SMS highly recommended. You can use Klaviyo, you can use Ricard, PostScript. There are many tools out there, and the logic is quite similar to email. So you can set up flows, welcome flow, new customer flow, abandon cart flow. The flows are shorter, so usually 2 SMS, maybe 3 in one flow, and yeah, that's really it. I think it's even more simple than email, to be honest, because there is
Yeah,
no
you
graphics.
have only a few hundred characters, right? To
Yeah.
So some of the use cases could be, for example, I don't know, back in stock alert, or like
Yeah.
a promotion ending. What other things could be?
Hmm?
I mean, because when you think about those, it's like, okay, so people want this because it's like, I don't know, your order is being, being shipped. So some things that won't look as spammy, but will be welcomed by most users, right? So what are some of
Yeah,
like you
sure.
have other?
So yeah, I really just wanted to share the, let's say, beginner level flows, but we can dive deeper if you want. So I mentioned abandon car, new customer welcome and welcome flow. So you can set up a separate VIP flow for your best customers. And then you mentioned back in stock flow. That's a good one because, usually these urgency and update type of messages works really well through SMS, like, because I think it just makes sense. Like you get text message that, hey, this product is available again. That's pretty good. I will buy. So I think everyone wants to see messages like this, text messages. And then we have flows connected with loyalty programs. So if people collect points and they hit a certain level, certain tier, then they get a notification that they can redeem their points and buy products with different, incentives. And then replenishment flow, if you sell something that has a fast cycle, like skincare products, maybe fast fashion, and you know that this, I don't know, like this face skin cream is good for 90 days or 30 days. After, let's say, 30 days, you can send them a text message that, hey, I hope you enjoy this product. You can buy it again here. And that's also a good option. And then it's a bit more advanced, but we really like this one. So you can ask questions from people, and if they reply with a certain keyword, for example, what's your skin type, oily, dry, or neutral, send the word back to us, the keyword, and they send neutral, and then you can send them related products, and you can segment them later based on this information, and they can also buy a relevant product. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good strategy as well.
Yeah, that's zero party data in action. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think it was Jay Abraham, a great marketer and consultant, that once said that there are three levers to grow a business: acquire new customers, trying to increase the AOV, and try to increase the LTV. What we see usually with many companies approaching to us is that they are focused on the number one, and they want to make all the profitability, like they say, oh, the ROAS is like a hot,
Yeah.
like a password, and everyone, of course, it's really important to be profitable, as profitable as possible for every business, but ROAS is only the front end, profit, let's say, margin is nothing else, nothing but that. Then you have the golden opportunity to actually, through your work, guys, to actually get them to spend more, to spend money again on you over and over and over. Because as you said earlier, if it's a customer once, probably that speaks not so good about your brand, right? Unless it's a
Yeah.
one-time product and it makes sense. I don't know, but then it's not. So I think it's great that you're giving the audience really tactical, advice on what to implement for email, for SMS. And I wanted to ask you more about loyalty programs. When do you think that it's the right time for a brand to implement one?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think you should be aware of your VIP segment. So you should be aware where your business is now. Like you are in the early stages, and your main focus is acquiring customers, and you just want more and more, maybe higher AOV and conversion rate, or you are already in the stage where you have VIPs, let's say a few thousand of them, maybe 5,000-10,000 at least, and you can clearly see their economic value, and you can compare it to one-time customers or two-time customers. What's the difference? I just checked today a few brands working with us, and there are huge differences there. So there is a brand where the VIPs, they worth only 50% more than an average customer. That's not a significant difference, but we have a brand where they are worth like 10, 15 times more. And that's a solid VIP segment. And actually 5 or even more thousand people. So, if you can see that they are really significant and there is a huge gap between these, then you can start thinking about, okay, maybe I should incentivize more people to become VIPs. And if you are VIPs, create different tiers so people can just move up on this ladder. And if you are already in that stage, then you can implement a loyalty program. I think also you can connect it with email, SMS marketing, with different channels really well. And, you can pick the tool. There are many out there. I think there is a crazy competition between these software companies. I can mention Loyalty Lion, Yotpo, maybe Stem.io. I would recommend these 3, and you can start using them. I think our preference now is Loyalty Lion. I think that's the most professional one on loyalty programs, and you can create different tiers for different, VIP levels. And probably another thing that you should do is just be creative about the incentives. So just like in ads, in email, in pop-ups, the offer matters a lot. And don't just give away discounts and more discounts as they become more high-level customers, but try to do something different. And it's really hard to give examples because
Early access,
Sorry?
like you say, for loyalty programs.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
loyalty
it could be
programs.
early access or
Oh
be a
yeah,
part
that's a
of.
good one. Yeah,
Yeah, it could be like, I don't know, fast shipping for, or it could
yeah,
be based on previous conversations with e-commerce directors and owners. One I loved is that some e-commerce brands, not most, but some, they actually involve some of their PIP customers. They give them a name, is like product
uh-huh.
creators or something like that, and they make them involved in the product creation process. So
Yeah.
they create a product and they send them samples to get feedback and improve them with their feedback. And of course, it's all in, like, not only products for the customers, but by the customers as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. You include your best VIP customers to create the product. That's a great example. Also, early access you mentioned, and then free samples, especially for new products. I think that's also a good one. And also some bigger brands, they organize live events. I think that's really powerful. I know Gymshark wants to do it as well. So I think that's also a good idea. Yeah.
That's great. And probably one of the last questions I have for you about this is, how do I know as a brand that I'm doing good with retention? Like, what's a healthy percentage?
Mm.
How do you measure success? I know probably it depends on the brand, on the industry, many things, but do you have like an estimate on what's probably not good and what's
Yeah.
good for that?
Yeah. Yeah, probably 0 is not good, so everyone should aim higher. But I think it really depends on the industry. I have a graph on this which shows the differences between different industries. So, for example, industries like furniture, expensive jewelry, there the retention rate is usually low because of the nature of the business. Or mattresses, if you buy a mattress for 5K, you won't buy it next month. It's normal. But there are industries where the consumable products like pet products, baby products, food, skincare products, beauty, fashion, these are industries where the returning customer rate is usually higher by nature. And I think for these brands, I would say the good number is 30, 40, 50%, something like that, maybe even higher. On the other end of the spectrum, usually coffee brands, they have really high retention rate. So I talked to Death Wish Coffee a few years ago. Their retention rate was 80%. And maybe now it's even higher. And actually the CMO told me that one of their biggest problems is that it's too high. Like there are
Yeah,
no enough new customers.
I
Yeah.
was going to ask you that. Like, is it a red flag for some brands to have a really high? I mean, could that be analyzed as having not having like a healthy pipeline for new customers and like I don't know, a brand, let's say I have an e-commerce brand and I don't do any paid ads, I don't do anything for SEO, I don't do anything to promote that to acquire new customers, only friends and family. And let's say they keep buying because they love the products. I will have, let's say, 90%. So that's probably say, oh, that's a good sign because people are buying from you. But on the flip side, you don't have new customers. So what's the balance?
Yeah, sure. It depends on your goals as well, I think. But in the past few months, I interviewed a few e-commerce brands for my podcasts. I always filter them before the interview if they are the right fit. And for me, it's always a red flag when they tell me that I ask them about, okay, how do you get customers? And if they tell me that I'm really happy as the founder because our customer base is really loyal and they come from organic traffic. I'm always suspicious because I'm sure that they are a small business, like too small, because loyal customer base, okay, like 50 people, you don't want to grow. So I think of course there is a too high number and that's not healthy, but I think most businesses they are below 50% when it's about returning customers, or 40%. So I think once you hit those numbers, then you are on the other end of the spectrum that, okay, maybe we should acquire now more customers. I think that's a good rule of thumb, but it depends on your goals with your business. Do you want to grow more, acquire more customers? You are happy with the existing ones? You are happy with your current business? So everyone can decide. Yeah.
Okay. This being great, you have shared really valuable, like really valuable things with the audience and with me. So I appreciate that. Before we go, I just wanted to ask you, as I always do here, about, I don't know if you have any favorite books or mentors, advisors that you want to give a shout out to.
Yeah, so let me give a shout out to Joey Coleman. He's the author of Never Lose a Customer Again, and great author, great book. And one reason why I want to actually give a shout out, because just today he interviewed me for his next book, Never Lose an Employee Again. He's
What?
his second book, and actually Buddha Media will be in the book as a case study, and I'm really happy for it. So yeah,
Congrats.
shout out to Joey.
Yeah, I watched one of his talks, and it was great. Very good speaker, very good
Yeah.
speaker. And I haven't read his book, but I will definitely do it because I've heard great things about it. Yeah.
Yeah, great guy, great speaker. And I also recommend this to every e-commerce business owner. So this book is good for everyone. There are many case studies, not just in service business, but e-commerce, retailers, manufacturers. So it's great. Yeah.
That's awesome. So where can people go to learn more about you and Budai Media?
Yeah. So find me on social media channels, Daniel Budai, or go to our website, thebudaimedia.com. And I also have my own podcast. It's called the eCom Show. And you can find it on Apple Podcast, Spotify as well.
That's great. Everything will be in the show notes as always. Daniel, you've been great. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, everyone.